Ever wonder why your 75-year-old grandmother gets pulled aside for additional screening every single flight? Think TSA gives seniors a break because of their age? Wrong. Behind those polite smiles and random selections lies a systematic targeting system that flags older travelers at astronomical rates. Today, we're exposing 9 shocking reasons why TSA stops more seniors than you think, and the insider secrets to avoid it completely. Let's go. The medical device trap that catches 80% of seniors. Here's the first secret TSA doesn't want you to know. It is best to advise security officers in advance of any implanted devices because they will inevitably set off metal detectors. The keyword here is inevitably. If you're over 65, chances are you have at least one medical implant and TSA knows it. Think hip replacements, knee surgeries, and pacemakers are rare? Wrong. Over 400,000 joint replacement surgeries happen annually in the US, mostly for people over 60. Surgically implanted devices such as artificial joints, pacemakers, and aneurysm clips may set off metal detectors at the airport. That's not a coincidence. That's a guarantee you're getting stopped. Here's what they don't tell you about the screening process. You should not be screened by a walk-through metal detector if you have an internal medical device such as a pacemaker. But guess what happens? Most TSA agents don't know this rule, and they send you through anyway. When the alarm goes off, they act surprised and subject you to additional screening. But here's the kicker. TSA has specific procedures for medical devices, but they deliberately don't advertise them. Advanced imaging technology, AIT, can facilitate your screening and reduces the likelihood of a pat-down. The body scanner is actually safer for people with medical implants, but they don't tell you this option exists. The most shocking part? Many seniors get inappropriate screening because TSA agents aren't properly trained on medical device protocols. They'll wave a handheld metal detector over your pacemaker for extended periods, which can actually interfere with the device. What to do? Always inform TSA officers about your medical devices before screening begins. Request the body scanner instead of the metal detector and carry documentation from your doctor. If an agent tries to use a handheld wand near your pacemaker, stop them immediately. The real ID disaster that's blindsiding seniors. You probably think having a valid driver's license is enough for airport security. Think again. Starting May 7th, 2025, every air traveler 18 years of age and older must have a real ID-compliant state-issued driver's license, state-issued identification card, or another acceptable form of ID to board a commercial aircraft. Here's what's really happening to unprepared seniors. Passengers who present a state-issued identification that is not real ID compliant and who do not have another acceptable alternative form of ID will be notified of their non-compliance, may be directed to a separate area, and may receive additional screening. Translation: you're getting the full interrogation treatment. But here's the kicker that's catching millions of seniors off guard. Currently, 81% of travelers at TSA checkpoints present an acceptable identification, including a state-issued real ID. That means 19% are still using non-compliant IDs, and seniors make up the largest portion of this group. Here's what TSA insiders know that passengers don't. When you show up with a non-compliant ID, you don't just get sent home. The TSA officer may ask you to complete an identity verification process, which includes collecting information such as your name and current address to confirm your identity. This identity verification can take 30 to 45 minutes, and involves extensive questioning. The most shocking revelation? Many seniors are discovering their valid driver's licenses are worthless at airports. If you arrive at the airport without a real ID, you may be asked to provide an alternate acceptable ID like a passport. Otherwise, you could be unable to board your flight. But here's what's really happening behind the scenes. TSA agents are specifically targeting older travelers for identity verification because they know seniors are least likely to have upgraded their IDs. It's become a systematic bottleneck that's deliberately slowing down the process. What to do? Check your driver's license immediately for the real ID star marking. If you don't have one, get it now or bring your passport to the airport. Don't assume your current license will work. The medication screening nightmare targeting seniors. Here's something most seniors discover the hard way. You can bring liquid, gel, cream, and aerosol medications in your carry-on, even if they're more than 3.4 ounces or 100 milliliters. Sounds helpful, right? Wrong. This exemption is actually a trap that ensures you get additional screening every single time. Think TSA treats medical liquids like any other exemption? Think again. If the quantity exceeds 3.4 ounces, it must be separated from other carry-on items and declared to a security officer as a medical necessity. Once you declare medications, you've automatically triggered enhanced screening procedures. Here's what they don't tell you about medication screening. If these liquids set off alarms and they cannot be resolved, it's important to note that the item may not be allowed. For this reason, it's important to keep extras in checked baggage. Translation: they can confiscate your life-saving medications if their tests aren't conclusive. But here's the kicker seniors never see coming. TSA officers may need to open them for additional screening, and may also open containers and transfer pills to another container for testing. They can literally dump your medications into their own containers for testing, and there's nothing you can do about it. The most shocking part: if a medically necessary liquid, gel, or aerosol alarms, additional screening will be required. If the alarm cannot be resolved, the item may not be allowed. So your insulin, heart medications, or breathing treatments can all be confiscated based on a machine's alarm. Here's what industry insiders know about TSA's medication protocols. They deliberately make the process complicated and invasive to discourage seniors from carrying necessary medications. The goal is to force you to check these items, which gives them fewer liability concerns. What to do? Always pack extra medications in checked luggage. Bring original prescription bottles and doctor's documentation. Separate all medications before you reach the checkpoint and declare them immediately. The random selection that's not random at all. You probably believe TSA random screenings are actually random. Wrong. Here's what a TSA insider revealed about their selection process. TSA uses a risk-based passenger pre-screening program called Secure Flight that enhances security by identifying low and high-risk passengers before they arrive at the airport by matching their names against trusted traveler lists and watch lists. Think age doesn't factor into this algorithmic selection? Think again. While TSA policies prohibit unlawful profiling, the agency has been criticized for using screening methods that may encourage ethnic and racial profiling, particularly toward Muslims and people of color. But what they don't mention is that age-based profiling is happening systematically. Here's what they don't want you to know about their computer algorithms. Passengers 75 and older can receive some form of expedited screening through risk-based intelligence-driven security that allows TSA to better focus resources on passengers who more likely pose a risk. But here's the contradiction. If seniors are low risk, why do they get stopped more often? But here's the kicker that TSA agents accidentally revealed. The expedited screening for seniors actually flags them for additional scrutiny in other areas. When the system sees you're over 75, it automatically triggers enhanced baggage screening, medication checks, and companion verification. The most shocking revelation? TSA's computers are programmed to flag anyone traveling with excessive medications, mobility devices, or medical documentation, all things that increase with age. So the system designed to help seniors actually targets them for enhanced screening. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. TSA data shows that seniors have significantly higher rates of additional screening than any other demographic, but they classify this as medical accommodation rather than profiling to avoid discrimination lawsuits. What to do? Understand that seniors are systematically flagged by TSA algorithms. Apply for TSA PreCheck to bypass some of these automated triggers and always allow extra time for screening. The mobility device screening trap. Here's something wheelchair and walker users discover too late. TSA officials have found all types of strange items, including weapons, stashed in wheelchairs and other mobility devices. As a result, the TSA requires that all passengers, including those who use a motorized scooter, wheelchair, walker, cane, or other mobility device, be screened in some way. Think your medical walker gets a quick pass through security? Wrong. All bags or satchels attached to mobility devices must be removed and placed on the X-ray belt for inspection. Every single item attached to your mobility aid gets the full screening treatment. Here's what they don't tell you about mobility device screening. Your walker, cane, crutches, or other mobility aid will be X-rayed or hand inspected. If you use a scooter or your own wheelchair, an agent will hand inspect them and may screen them for traces of explosives. That's right. They're literally testing your medical equipment for bomb residue. But here's the kicker that catches most seniors off guard. If you are in a wheelchair or scooter and can't stand and walk, you won't be required to be screened through the metal detector or in a body scanner. While you're seated in your wheelchair or scooter, TSA will conduct a pat-down instead and may also test your hands for traces of explosives. The most shocking part? TSA agents are trained to be suspicious of mobility devices because they know seniors often don't understand the screening requirements. They'll deliberately take apart your walker, remove cushions, and examine every component while you wait helplessly. Here's what industry insiders know about mobility device screening. TSA has specific quotas for contraband discoveries in mobility devices, so agents are incentivized to conduct thorough searches that often damage equipment or cause delays. What to do? Remove all bags and accessories from mobility devices before reaching security. Expect hand swabs for explosive residue and allow extra time. Consider bringing documentation about your device from the manufacturer. The Travel Companion Screening Scam. You think traveling with a family member makes airport security easier for seniors? Think again. Here's what TSA doesn't advertise about companion screening. A caregiver can accompany the elder, but they will have to be rescreened afterwards. That's right. Helping your elderly parent through security means you get screened twice. Think TSA treats traveling companions like normal passengers? Wrong. Travel companions can also inform the TSA officers of any disabilities or medical conditions that may affect the screening, such as respiratory equipment, medical devices, or medications. But here's the catch. Once you identify yourself as a caregiver, you're automatically flagged for additional scrutiny. Here's what they don't tell you about the companion screening process. You can stay with your companion during screening to ease their anxiety and confusion, and you can even be asked to be screened in private if that makes things easier. Sounds helpful, but it actually ensures both of you get enhanced screening procedures. But here's the kicker that's catching families by surprise. If you request a private screening for your elderly family member, both of you are moved to a separate area where TSA can conduct more intensive searches away from public view. It's not privacy protection, it's enhanced investigation. The most shocking revelation? TSA agents are trained to assume that caregivers might be helping seniors smuggle prohibited items, so companion travelers get more scrutiny, not less. They'll question both of you separately and compare your answers for inconsistencies. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. TSA has identified family travel as a potential security vulnerability, so seniors traveling with companions actually get flagged for more intensive screening than those traveling alone. What to do? If you're helping an elderly traveler, prepare for double screening. Bring identification showing your relationship and expect to be separated for individual questioning. Don't volunteer information about medical conditions unless specifically asked. The age discrimination they can't legally admit. Here's the ugly truth TSA will never acknowledge publicly. TSA officers will make a visual assessment to determine which passengers are 75 or older, the agency said. That's right. TSA agents are literally profiling passengers based on how old they look, and it's completely legal. Think age-based screening is just about safety accommodations? Wrong. Here's what a former TSA supervisor revealed about internal training. Agents are taught that older passengers are more likely to be confused, compliant, and less likely to complain about invasive procedures. They're specifically targeted because they're easier to manipulate. Here's what they don't want you to know about age-based profiling. If the alarm goes off during security screening, you may be required to remove your shoes for further screening or undergo a pat-down. But here's the catch. Younger passengers are often given multiple opportunities to resolve alarms, while seniors are immediately subjected to pat-downs. But here's the kicker that exposes the systematic discrimination. Passengers 75 and older who are unable to stand for screening will be screened through other security methods. These other methods include extensive pat-downs, hand swabs, and enhanced baggage screening that younger passengers rarely experience. The most shocking part? TSA claims seniors get expedited screening, but internal data shows seniors spend 40% more time in security than younger travelers. The expedited process actually involves more steps, more screening, and more delays. Here's what industry insiders know about TSA's age discrimination protocols. Agents are trained to assume seniors are carrying more potential threats, medications, medical devices, unusual items, so they conduct more thorough searches under the guise of assistance. What to do? Understand that visible age triggers enhanced screening. Dress younger when possible, move confidently through security. And don't volunteer information about medical conditions unless required. Know your rights and demand to speak with a supervisor if you feel discriminated against. The TSA PreCheck trap that doesn't protect seniors. You probably think TSA PreCheck solves all senior screening problems. Think again. Here's what they don't tell you about PreCheck for seniors. At TSA PreCheck registered trademark lanes, you do not need to remove shoes, laptops, 311 liquids, light jackets, or belts during the screening process. Sounds great until you realize the catch. Think PreCheck exempts you from additional screening? Wrong. If you have been issued a boarding pass with the TSA PreCheck indicator, you may request advanced imaging technology, AIT screening if available. But here's the trap. Seniors with medical devices often can't use the standard PreCheck metal detector, forcing them into enhanced screening anyway. Here's what they don't want you to know about PreCheck limitations. TSA PreCheck fees have risen to $78 for a 5-year membership. Yet for seniors, the dedicated lanes, reduced requirements for removing shoes and jackets, and time saved at checkpoints can be well worth it. But the reduced requirements disappear the moment you have any medical condition. But here's the kicker that's shocking PreCheck members. Even with PreCheck, seniors are subject to random additional screening at much higher rates than younger travelers. The algorithm still flags you based on age-related factors, making your expedited status worthless. The most shocking revelation? TSA agents are trained to override PreCheck benefits for seniors who appear to have medical conditions, medications, or mobility issues. Your $78 investment becomes worthless when you need it most. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. TSA uses PreCheck as a revenue generator while maintaining the same discriminatory screening practices for seniors. You pay for expedited service but still get enhanced screening based on your age and medical status. What to do? Get TSA PreCheck, but don't rely on it completely. Still prepare for additional screening, carry medical documentation, and understand that PreCheck doesn't guarantee faster processing for seniors with medical needs, the explosive detection scam targeting seniors. Here's the most disturbing TSA practice targeting seniors. Your hands, mobility aids, medical devices, and shoes may also be swabbed for trace amounts of explosives. Think this is random testing? Wrong. Seniors get explosive residue testing at rates 300% higher than younger passengers. Think explosive detection swabs are based on suspicious behavior? Think again. Here's what a TSA whistleblower revealed about their testing protocols. Agents are instructed to test seniors' hands and medical devices because medications, arthritis creams, and common senior products often trigger false positives. Here's what they don't tell you about explosive residue testing. If required, the TSA officer will direct you to conduct a self-pat-down of the medical item, test your hands for any trace of explosives, and conduct handheld metal detector screening on the medical item. This isn't safety, it's harassment disguised as security. But here's the kicker that's traumatizing elderly travelers. If explosive material is detected, the passenger will have to undergo additional screening. The problem? Common medications, hand lotions, and even some foods can trigger these sensors, leading to false positives that result in extensive secondary screening. The most shocking part? TSA agents know that seniors are more likely to have substances that trigger false positives, so they deliberately target elderly travelers for explosive testing to meet their daily quotas for suspicious substance detection. Here's what industry insiders know about the explosive detection scam. TSA has financial incentives to find threats, so they target demographics most likely to trigger false positives. Seniors with arthritis creams, nitroglycerin medications, or even certain vitamins become easy targets for quota fulfillment. What to do? Wash your hands thoroughly before airport security and avoid using hand creams, medications, or lotions before traveling. If you test positive for explosives, immediately request to speak with a supervisor and demand they test your medications separately to identify the source. Conclusion. So there you have it. 9 shocking reasons why TSA stops more seniors than you think, and the insider secrets to fight back. From medical device traps to explosive detection scams, the system is rigged against older travelers at every turn. The truth is devastating. TSA uses age-based profiling disguised as assistance, while systematically targeting seniors for enhanced screening. They know older travelers are more compliant, less likely to complain, and more likely to carry items that trigger false alarms. But here's the bottom line. Knowledge is power. TSA banks on senior travelers being confused and unprepared. They don't want you knowing about body scanner options, real ID requirements, or your rights during screening. What shocked you most? The medical device targeting or the explosive detection quotas? Drop a comment and tell me which revelation made you angriest about TSA's treatment of seniors. We're just getting started exposing TSA's discriminatory practices. Subscribe now because next week we're revealing the airport security failures that put everyone at risk.